Good morning, everybody. Books and tea. Thank you for throwing emotes in the chat before we started. Nothing better than that. I appreciate you, and good evening to you. Good morning for me. Welcome to Sunrise Book Club. Today, we're going to take a short little journey into the world of reptoids, lizard-like people or frogmen that people have seen out there in the world, mainly because one was sighted back in the 60s in old Riverside County, California, which is near in the area where I live. So I like to refresh my memory about that one from time to time. Then we're going to look at the Loveland Frogman, which is another one of my favorites. We're going to read about that creature in two different books. We're reading from, of course, Field Guide to North American Monsters. Beautiful book that has a lot of unknown and paranormal type cryptids. And then what we've been relying on a lot, and I'm going to pick up another one of these books soon because I need to get more. I need more alien stories, just for a stream at least. The stuff I like to talk about or read about. That keeps this stuff is exciting to me to read on stream. But this one's been really good for cryptids and paranormal stuff too. So they have good accounts of the Loveland Frogman. We're going to start with Unexplained, which is another great book if you want like a book about a little bit of everything. Cryptids, UFOs, Bermuda Triangle. If it's like weird, you name it. And jump into Reptoids. Let's flip it over to the live scene. And I want to welcome everybody to this edition of Cryptid Tales. Welcome on in. Welcome to Cryptid Tales. Now, as we dive into the unknown, remember this. I'm always ready and wanting to hear your stories of the unknown, your stories of encounters with Bigfoot, Reptoid, UFO, ghost, whatever it is. I want to hear them. I've never really had encounters like that, but I want to know about them. So please let me know, because as always,
we're ready to believe you.
Okay, so let's dive in. Okay, nice. Okay, nice. Well, cool. Let's dive on in. Let's zoom on in. I love this new camera angle they got in 76 here. Excellent. I'll be sure to check that out when I can. Thank you, books. And welcome in, everybody. Let's get this journey into the unknown started. We're learning about reptoids. We're going to dive in a little bit to the history of the Thetis Lake Monster as well. The Thetis Lake Monster is loosely based on, well, I think the creature from the Black Lagoon might have been loosely based on stories of the Thetis Lake Monster. So we're going to be diving into that too. That just popped into my mind. But reptoids. Okay. So the Black Lagoon takes place in 1954, and it's about an expedition along the Amazon River where they encounter a bizarre aquatic biped with gills and scales. Now, in November 1958, so that's the creature from the Black Lagoon. The writer sets it up kind of weird, but I like to just clear that up at the beginning. But in 1958, so that's 1954, Creature from the Black Lagoon's released. So this guy, who knows, maybe he's seen Creature of the Black Lagoon, maybe his mind's primed to see something like it. But here's the story from Riverside, California. In 1958, a Riverside, California man driving near the Santa Ana River was attacked by a similar creature with a round, scarecrowish head, shiny eyes, and scales. It left long scratches on his windshield, and as he accelerated, he hit it and drove over it, which is unfortunate. But, you know, I guess things happen. Very scary. So that is the reptoid encounter of 1958 in Riverside, California. So the alleged witness was named Charles Wetzel, and the following evening another motorist claimed the same kind of monster jumped out of the bushes at his car. So a classic cryptid behavior too that we've read about, right? They love jumping out of bushes in front of cars, running along the sides of cars, scratching cars, just generally doing stuff to cars. Though fairly rare, accounts of reptilian bipeds crop up from time to time, usually in brief sighting reports. But the idea of such creatures was current at least as early as 1878, when Louisville's Metropolitan Theater exhibited The Wild Man of the Woods, described as 6 feet 5 inches tall, covered with fish scales, and presumably this reptile man was an ordinary man garbed for the occasion, which was the culling of cash from the credulous. But nearly a century later, in October 1975, residents of tiny Milton, Kentucky, north of Louisville, reported seeing a bipedal giant lizard. You know, this isn't the first time either people have reported seeing these kind of creatures. I think 1878, I mean, I know there's stories too from, you know, deeper in ancient times where people have seen creatures like this. Like mole people. And like, why am I forgetting? But there's a story of like a frog people, I think, that live underground. And they helped. Gosh, who did they help? I'm blanking on it. But if I could find it, I'll throw it up. But anyways, they helped like certain people live underground for a little bit during some crazy natural disasters. Or so the story goes. But these kind of creatures have been sighted for centuries. I'm going to say before, like since ancient times, before 1878. There's got to be stories out there of people seeing creatures like this before then. Anywho, 1975, Milton, Kentucky. Both Milton and Louisville border the Ohio River. So does Evansville, Indiana, where on August 21st, 1955, Mrs. Darwin Johnson, 3 years before Riverside incident, was swimming when a claw-like hand gripped her knee from below the water and pulled her under. She struggled with the unseen grabber and managed to free herself, but no sooner had she come to the surface than she was dragged down again. She was able to lunge at a friend's inner tube, and the thump she made on contact would have apparently scared the attacker away. Though never observed, the creature left a green palm stain on Mrs. Johnson's knee and scratches and marks for which she sought medical attention. Northeast of Cincinnati, in Loveland, Ohio. Oh, Loveland Frogman. Let me show you the Loveland Frogman, just so you all can get a picture in your mind's eye. So this is the Loveland Frogman. Now, I don't know, in my favorite stories about Old Froggy from Loveland, Ohio, he's seen with a wand, and there's a group of them standing in a circle, all holding wands. That's my favorite detail. Not all the stories that you read about the Frogman and the eyewitness accounts go into that part of it, but that's my favorite part. What were they doing with their wands? Practicing cute little frog magics. Okay. Okay, in Loveland, Ohio, along the Miami River, reports of a more or less reptilian bipeds have been made since at least 1955, when a driver returning home from work at 3:30 a.m. on May 25th reported that he had spotted 3 grotesque-looking creatures with lopsided chests, wide, lipless, frog-like mouths, and wrinkles rather than hair on their heads. One held a spark-generating bar, that's the wand, shaped device above its head. It was generating sparks too, even wilder. He watched them from his parked car for 3 minutes before leaving to alert the Loveland Police Chief, John Fritz. As he did so, he smelled a strong odor reminiscent of fresh-cut alfalfa, with a slight trace of almonds. Fritz found nothing, but was nonetheless convinced of the witness's sincerity. Nearly 17 years later, on March 3rd, 1972, at 1 a.m., 2 Loveland police officers encountered something comparable. A 4-foot-tall frog-faced biped with textured leathery skin. They saw it jump over a guardrail and descend an embankment leading to the Little Miami River. About 2 weeks later, one of the officers saw the thing again, first lying in the road, then getting up to go over the guardrail. He took a shot at it, as we do. Again, in every single story we read in these older books. I mean, we're heavy. Look, I'm gonna get some more modern, more books published, hopefully in the 2000s to near to our time. Most of the stuff we have, because there was plentiful, there was a better selection, or it seems like, at least from looking at thrift books and stuff, in the 90s for books about monsters for whatever reason. So I'm trying to find more current stuff, because I want to know more current stuff, because everything we read here takes place in the 70s. But nonetheless, why did I even start talking about? I forget. Maybe my train of thought will get back on track. But let's get back to Loveland Frogman. 2 weeks later, the officers saw the thing again. First lying in the road, then getting up to go over the guardrail. Oh, he took a shot at it. No, that's why. So everyone in these books from the 90s shoots at these things whenever they have an encounter. Like, I want to read about some encounters where maybe people didn't try and kill the creature unknown to us. You know, that'd be nice. Because it's no small wonder, and we talk about this a lot every time we read about cryptids, that these creatures just hide from us. They're so good at sensing the coming humans. They just pop out of existence, disappear, hide themselves, whatever it may be. That's what they do, because there's no reason for any of these guys to approach us, because we're always shooting them. Even in that Simpsons, where the one where Mr. Burns goes to his doctor's appointment and he turns glowing and he's walking through the woods and he's all lovey-dovey with his arms out. The townspeople want to shoot him. It's a classic trope. Okay. And again, so we takes a shot at the frogman, but apparently missed. And that's the good thing, though. We always miss these creatures. That's great. A local farmer also reported seeing such a creature. In the summer of 1972 at Thetis Lake, British Columbia, there were 2 reports of silver-colored. In the summer of 1972 at Thetis Lake, British Columbia, there were 2 reports of a silver-colored creature that emerged from the water. In the first instance, on August 19th, to chase a couple of young men from the beach. One supposedly suffered lacerations in the hand from 6 sharp points atop the thing's head. A witness to the second incident on August 23rd said it was shaped like an ordinary body, like a human being body, but it had a monster face, and it was all scaly. It had a sharp point on its head and great big ears. The following summer, people in the Newton-Lafayette area of New Jersey told of encounters with a giant creature that looked like a cross between a man and an alligator. So now let's check out the Thetis Lake creature. So he kind of looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon. Apologies, I was wrong. It's not based, the creature from Black Lagoon is not based on Thetis Lake Monster. Thetis Lake Monster didn't appear until the 70s. But these guys, so people be seeing these guys. Those are lizard men and frog people, Reptoids. So next we're gonna dive in a little deeper on the Loveland Frogman, which again is one of my favorites, because they were holding wands that were sparking. If we are to believe this man, I believe he was a lawyer, this lawyer man who saw them at 3:30 a.m. and the bewitching hour, which I think is legit. I think like the Earth is in like a weird, wherever you are at 3:30 a.m. the electromagnetic fields are like the frequencies of Earth. The Navajo Rangers talk about this, but it's lined up to where the veil between realities might be a little bit thinner. So that's why during that time it's a funky time in the morning. Anywho, Loveland Frogman. Here is, ooh, not that scene. Okay, here is the Loveland Frogman. We have the vital stats here. And on the bottom, we go over of course, my favorite, the rating scale. So the Loveland Frogman, on encountering him, is rated 3 Jersey Devils, and that's out of 5. So that is the likelihood you're gonna run into the Frogman out there. And if it's a 3, I like to think this author's saying this is a 75% chance you're gonna run into a Loveland Frogman if you're out there in Ohio and you got the right vibes. Because, you know, Frogman's not going to be showing up if you're trying to eat his frog legs or murder him to prove that he's real. So, vital stats. Let's start with the distinguishing features of the Loveland Frogman. Frog-like faces, leathery skin, that word, and huge bulbous eyes. Height about 3'6", weight 60 pounds. Range and habitat, rivers and waterways in Ohio River Valley, especially near Loveland, Ohio. Population size, several dozen. Diet, omnivore/insectivore, makes sense. It's a big frog. Does that mean that there are giant insects that it eats? Behavior, the frogmen enjoy lurking along quiet waterways where they live out their lives in relative seclusion. On rare occasion, they venture away from their chosen stream or river, but will flee toward the nearest body of water when spotted by humans. Good call. Source of this creature, the source of our stories and information here, cryptozoology and ufology. Now, unfortunately, we do have a really good book, Cryptozoology A to Z, but the Frogman doesn't appear in that book. Now, it's a great one, but it doesn't have any of the fun cryptids. I mean, not to say Bigfoot and Yeti aren't fun, but they're not necessarily like, I mean, like, we get it. They're not like, compared to the Frogman holding a wand, I mean, they're a little boring. So, let's dive in. The Loveland Frogmen are squat, half-human, half-frog hybrids found roaming the banks of the Ohio River and its tributaries. According to several well-documented sightings, they have the faces of frogs atop wiry bodies covered in leathery flesh. Like frogs, they have bulging eyes and wide mouths. They are proficient swimmers, but can also use their muscular legs to hop great distances on land, as they would. In addition, they are extremely agile and have been known to dodge incoming bullets, leap easily over fences, and descend steep inclines without stumbling. The existence of the Loveland Frogmen was first brought to the attention of cryptozoologists in March 1955, when a local businessman reported seeing a group of strange creatures beneath a bridge near Loveland, Ohio. He was unclear about what he had seen, variously describing the monsters as trolls or giant lizards and giant frogs. After this sighting, guards were ordered to patrol the bridge and the FBI launched an investigation, but no further evidence was encountered for almost 20 years. However, in 1972, again in March, a frogman appeared in the headlights of a police cruiser. The officer testified that the frog-faced creature quickly ran down an embankment at the side of the road and entered the Little Miami River immediately after his sighting. The officer contacted a second police officer and both scoured the area of the encounter. So interesting, it's a little bit basically the same stories as the first book, but in this one, the author includes the FBI. Now, I'm not going to say I don't believe this author when he says this, but in this book, this is, I mean, it's a wonderful book because it has all the most fun cryptids, all the wild ones, all North America at least. He mentions the FBI a lot. I mean, and I'm not saying, because that would be so cool if the FBI had like a cryptid division that actually gave a crap about these reports and took them seriously, and like, you know, Mulder and Scully came out and investigated it. That'd be so cool. So I'm hoping that it's true, but I'm just pointing out that in every cryptid story, he's like, and then the FBI got involved. And there's no further proof, but hey, I love it. So again, the 70s, Loveland, Ohio, something was out there. And you know, maybe the FBI was involved. Maybe we got a situation where this was a creature that had been experimented with or on or created by us that got out of a lab. Who knows? Now, ironically, just 2 weeks after the initial 1972 sighting, oh, and the other difference here is, I think in Unexplained, the officers were together when they saw the Frogman. And in this one, the officer goes and gets the second dude, and then they scoured the area. And they found large scrapes leading into the river. I don't know if that was mentioned there. Ironically, just 2 weeks after the initial 1972 sighting, the second officer called to the scene was driving on the road near Loveland when he spotted a prone figure in his headlights. Oh, just checking. Okay, that'd be so scary to see someone just laying down, prone. Prone, I know from shooting video games. That's when you lay down, right? And you're like, So Loveland, Ohio, going prone on you. That'd be terrifying. Okay, when he spotted a prone figure in his headlights. When he stepped from the car to investigate, he realized that he too had found a frogman. As he neared the creature, it stood up and vaulted to the nearest guardrail. Determined to prove the existence of the Loveland Frogman, the officer fired at the fleeing creature, but his bullets either went wild or passed through the monster, and it escaped into the darkness. After 2 police officers came forward, cryptozoologists began uncovering a wealth of evidence to support the existence of the Loveland Frogman. Researchers contacted local residents and farmers who had also seen groups of small frog-like humanoids, but had failed to report such sightings for fear of ridicule. More important, the frogman continue to be spotted along the Ohio River and nearby waterways as recently as 1985. For example, 2 Loveland boys spotted what they described as a frog the size of a dog on the shore of the Little Miami. Because the frogmen are amphibians, it is unlikely that they would attack humans for food. However, the Loveland Frogman may not be completely harmless. On August 21st, 1955, Mrs. Darwin Johnson was swimming in the Ohio River near Evansville, Indiana, when she was attacked from below. The creature that grabbed her was incredibly strong and pulled her beneath the water twice before she managed to wrestle free. The attack left Mrs. Johnson with large scratches and bruises, but the most bizarre aspect of the case was the appearance of a strange green handprint on her leg. So Miss Johnson, this was the story in the beginning of the last one, the lady who felt the claw in the river. But this one adds a detail here about the handprint being green, but that could just be a bruise, right? The print, which, because it couldn't be washed away, don't bruises get green sometimes? Greenish? I don't know. The print, which I don't know what shade of green, doesn't mention, so it's a crazy shade of green, then obviously not. But they don't say that. They don't say what shade. The print, which could not be washed away, resembled an oddly shaped bruise and lingered for several days. While it is unknown if Mrs. Johnson's assailant was actually a Loveland Frogman, the attack took place only a few hundred miles from Loveland. It's kind of a long ways. And within only a few months of the first reliably recorded sighting of these humanoid amphibians. It was only 1,000 miles away. The frogmen remain near the Ohio River and most often roam abroad on cold, clear nights. Ooh, best nights. They are most active in Loveland during March, but they seem to migrate west in preparation for the winter. Smart. I mean, if they're cold-blooded, they got to, right? When searching for the frogmen, spend March scouring Loveland and the surrounding regions. As the month comes to a close, begin a slow 6-month trek along the Ohio River toward Evansville, Indiana, which should be the center of any search during August. Although an attack by the frogmen on humans is unlikely, the mere possibility of such an assault should be kept in mind at all times. Always swim with a buddy when you go for a dip, and never enter a waterway if you suspect a frogman is nearby. If you see any sparking wands, do not go into the water. I wonder if frogman freaking stick that wand in the water, electrocute you probably. Let's see, dude. Let's dive in. Maybe we dive into one more. Yeah, let's go to the Thetis Lake Monster. And we're going to wrap it up here with the Thetis Lake Monster. Because, again, the Thetis Lake Monster was also mentioned at the end of our unexplained journey. But we'll get to dive in a little more. And as you'll see with the old Thetis Lake Monster here, we are only rated 2 Jersey Devils out of 3. I mean, out of 5. Come on, zoom in. There we go. 2 Jersey Devils out of 5. So that means if, you know, the 3 for the Frogman was 75% with the 2, gosh, you're banking on maybe a 25% chance of running into this guy. So you're probably not going to run into the Thetis Lake Monster anytime soon, but this is its story. Distinguishing features: scales, gills, huge eyes, and a fish-like face. Height, 5 feet. Weight, 120 pounds. Range and habitat, Lake Thetis, British Columbia. Population size, 1. Diet, unknown. Behavior: the Thetis Lake Monster periodically surfaces to frighten people visiting its serene habitat. In the past, the monster may have eaten humans as well. Source of this creature: cryptozoology and Native American mythology. So that's cool. It's always cool when you have a lineup with a native people's mythology with these creatures. You know, I love that stuff. For centuries, Native Americans have reported encounters with various races of cannibalistic humanoids inhabiting lakes, rivers, and oceans. Unexplained didn't go into this one. Interesting. The native tribes of the Puget Sound region called these monsters pugwees and described them as fish-faced horrors with huge mouths and terrible fangs. Such monsters have reappeared in modern times, usually to be found lurking along some desolate stretch of coastline or in an isolated lake. One such beast is the Thetis Lake Monster, who was first reported in the 1970s. Like pugwees, the Thetis monster is similar in appearance to the South American gill man, made famous by such films as The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Its entire body is protected by tough, silvery scales, and a razor-sharp fin projects from the crest of its skull. Large webbed ears protrude from its rounded head, and its clawed hands and feet are also equipped with translucent webbing, an adaptation enabling the creature to move through the water at amazing speeds. And here's the guy again, just so you get a good look at him. This is the Thetis Lake Monster, traveling at amazing speeds to bite your toes. There you go. Its eyes are dark, bulbous orbs capable of penetrating the depths of even the murkiest lakes. The Thetis Lake Monster can extract oxygen from both air and water, allowing it to travel on land. Although seemingly mute, the monster does make harsh gurgling noises, presumably as a result of forcing air through its waterlogged lungs. The first recorded Thetis Lake Monster sighting occurred on August 19, 1972, when two teenagers on the shores of the lake observed a scaly humanoid suddenly rise from the water. The terrified teens fled into the lake. Sorry, not fled into the lake. That'd be a bad idea. The terrified teens fled the lake, but the beast pursued the pair and lacerated one boy's hand with the vicious barbed fin that adorns its skull. The boys immediately took their harrowing tale to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, who were so impressed with the sincerity of the witness that they launched a complete investigation into the attack. They found little evidence to corroborate the boys' story, but just 4 days later, 2 more witnesses were also frightened by the monster, and the RCMP were forced to increase its efforts. But after weeks of vainly searching the lake and the surrounding environs, the RCMP quietly halted the investigation. While the monster had not been seen in the area for some time, any research into this particular beast should begin at Thetis Lake. Evidence in the form of footprints or discarded scales might direct researchers toward the Thetis Lake Monster's current whereabouts. If you encounter the Thetis Lake Monster, remember its possible connections to the pugwees and other fishmen, all of which are considered cannibalistic and extremely dangerous. Approach the monster only with the greatest caution. In the event the creature attacks, there may be at least one effective method of dissuading the Thetis Lake Monster. South American gillmen, such as the monster featured in The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and many other aquatic humanoids, are deathly afraid of fire. Therefore, a monsterologist with a torch might be able to ward off the Thetis Lake Monster. And that makes sense, right? Gotta dry that sucker out. Alright, so today I'm excited. We're starting gaming just a little teeny bit early today because I am very excited to get into Starfield. I want to create my character. I want to take my time. I want to get deep with it. So we're going to jump into that. Thank you for joining me for the Sunrise Book Club. If you want to stick around, watch me game for a bit, that'd be lovely. If not, have a great rest of your day. And stop by tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning we get serious. Okay, we had fun today with monsters. Tomorrow morning we're getting serious with the mechanics of consciousness. We're continuing with chapter 7 of this lovely little book. When we read it together, I don't preview the chapters really. We're learning about the mechanics of consciousness together on this one. So what this book does is it looks at consciousness. It gets real wacky with it, real interesting with it, real wild with it. It talks about the possibility, scientific possibility of psychic abilities and how we currently live amongst several different realities all going on at the same time. And we as humans are only able to sense our, you know, cone of reality in this like 3D world, right? But super, very interesting. If you've been following along, we're on chapter 7 and we're learning about the parable of the bicycle. We just learned in chapter 6 about the hierarchy of realities, the different realities as far as the mineral reality. Let me get the list here. These are all different realities that like exist around us at the same time, and this is just kind of a simple way to understand it. Mineral, plant, animal, human. Then above us, emotional, and that's like the astral plane. When people astral project, that's where you're going, kind of like the emotional reality. Then above that, there's the intuitive, and that's where other entities live. I mean, there's other spiritual entities that live in all these realms too. Then above that, there's the spiritual. So we learned all about that wild stuff. And then before that, earlier in the book, we learned about how everything that you do as a human, even thoughts, have a frequency and can be measured. And that as on Mother Earth, we are in kind of like we're in an electromagnetic field. With Earth, I might get this reversed, but with Earth charged positively and the ionosphere charged negatively, that creates an electromagnetic field that's like a jello. And, you know, in a jello, when you poke, if there's like a jello with raisins in it, it's an old book, so that's the dish that they use. If there's jello with raisins in it, and you poke or try and take one of the raisins out, the whole jello vibrates and all the raisins feel it. So when you look at us, creation, everything, when you zoom in to the tiniest level, we're just atoms, right? Empty space and atoms that are vibrating really fast like this, vibrating and in a rest and action, like rest action. That's kind of how they oscillate inside of us, and they're orbiting and they're moving back and forth all that time, sending out these frequencies, right? Sending out these frequencies to our sensory organs that then pick up this kind of Morse code of action and rest and interpret that as our 3D world. So kind of like arguing in a way that we're in a hologram, but it's like not like a simulation theory type hologram where we're like plugged in to like machines like in the Matrix or anything, but it's more like we're all creating this together. It's a shared consciousness, but very, very cool, very wild stuff. If you're familiar with the CIA Gateway process, they used a lot of this author, Itzhak Bentov's work to kind of refine that. But, well, I'm rambling. That's tomorrow morning. We're going to get into it. It's going to be super good. But now it's time for some Starfield. But before I get into that, it's time. I got to use the restroom really quick, and I'll be right back. So enjoy the view. I'm going to run an ad just so we don't have to see any ads for a long time, so please stick around if you're here. But I'll be right back. Enjoy the view. some Starfield. All right. Okay. Let's play it. Oh, I'm nervous because I'm excited. I can't wait to make my guy. All right, let's go. Enough fooling around with Reptoids. Oh, you know what? You know what I want to do? Before I do that, let's break down just the int here. I do need this. So let's talk believability scale for Reptoids, mainly the Loveland Frogman and the Thetis Lake Monster. I'm gonna go ahead and say 85% from me on this on the believability scale. I'm 85% the way there to say heck yes, they're out there. So maybe if we go out with the right vibe, we'll encounter one. But definitely on the believability scale, boop, 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 85%. Yep. All right, now let's head into Starfield.